Hello and welcome to step 6. In this video I'm going to show you how to add your copy, i.e. your text, and how to alter the layout of the sections to better suit your requirements. I'm going to show you how to use a couple of the other widgets that we've not yet touched upon. These are quite common elements on websites today, like gallery and video. I'm not going to go through each and every one of the widgets. The free version of Elementor comes with a lot of them. The pro version comes with even more. What is going to be far more useful to you is to learn how to manipulate the web page, how to maybe think and do things the way I would. So at a basic level, we know that all the widgets live in the toolbar here to the left. We've seen these before. We pick one, anyone, for example purposes. We drag it into the web page where we want it to go. This is obviously not where we would put it, but you get the idea. We click on it, and in the left you can see Content, Style, Advanced. If we click on the heading widget that we've used a number of times, Content, Style, Advanced, it's structured the exact same way. So if you know how to use one or two of the widgets, you can definitely search out how to use the others. So what we're going to do is make a first pass over the website on copy, and then we'll make a second pass and look at how we might alter the layout. So let me start adding something into this heading. The guidance suggests a tagline or a motto, which obviously would work very well in this opening line. I'm not going to use one, and you don't need to do either if maybe you don't have one. I think the point of that heading is that it needs to be catchy. It's the first thing that somebody's going to read. The second one, which I'm showing how you can actually type it directly onto the web page itself. You don't need to add text in the toolbar to the left on headings and text editor. For me, it needs to say exactly what the website's about. So a really succinct, to the point, 10 to 12 words heading that gets straight to the point. I think that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. I will save the changes. Bit of a habit of mine, I guess. When I'm happy with a section, I save and move on. Here we've currently got what is an about section. Again, as I just said, you can directly type the copy onto the web page in text editor, like so, as well as heading. The guidance that I've written there, I've tried my best to sort of give you some insight as to what an about section may be for a typical single page website, for such as a freelancer or a professional services consultant, a small business, or an individual, I guess. I mean, this could be essentially, it could be an introductory section onto a person, or a biography, if it was something of the like. Of course, you could make it a project section by changing that heading. You could make it any section you like. Whatever you do with this title and with what you use the section for, you would obviously want to go up to these links in the header and change the title there. If you click on that, it'll scroll down. Just double check it's still working. To do that, again, you click on the element, you've probably got it, you go to the left in the toolbar, and you can change the text, and you can also change where it links to as well if you chose to. We'll cover those links and what we call menu anchors in a second. So you can make the section what you like. My advice is to make it introductory. It is the first bit of detail that somebody would read. I guess that ultimately you also might want to write the copy off screen. Sometimes actually it's quite hard doing it live onto the web page. Take a note of the word count. Of course, this section's got lots of white space, so it does have room for more copy if you wanted to add some, or you need to add more. But just be mindful, obviously, that my approach to this is less is more sometimes, and nowadays I don't think people do read in-depth text unless it's a blog article or something like Wikipedia. Here I'm just showing you can change the title and the text of the image box. You probably knew that. It's just to show how maybe you can use that image for two different things. I just changed it to Let's Speak and then changed the coffee title to Chat or Connect or whatever. What we've got here is the first breaker, this sort of stone or cement coloured bar. Breakers are, I think it's probably an expression that I've used. I may have made that up. For me, it literally does what the title suggests. It breaks the two sections. I often just put things in these that might relate to, in this instance, to the facts about the business or whatever the web page is about. You can also change the icons. Again, you click on the element, go to the toolbar to the left, and you can pick a different icon should you choose to. You get the idea. Obviously watch punctuation and grammar in all your copy. The services section as it stands, you obviously now know how you could adapt that. You could make it a completely different section. As I said, we'll come to layout in a minute and how you could add different elements, but ultimately, as far as copy is concerned, this may not be services, it may be portfolio, or it may be products, or whatever it may be. The guidance text hopefully helps. Obviously, it's been written with the view that this is for a service, or I guess product. As we scroll down, we'll come to the second breaker. And here you can see that I generally focus this on ethos. So this would relate more to the approach. As you can see by those titles, it can all be changed. Obviously, you can use these for whatever you like. It goes without saying. This section, which is in the links at the header at the top, is testimonials. It's what people think, whether they're customers or whoever your website is going to affect. I think this is really important. I think it gives your web page credibility. You could use the name and title boxes there. I'm just obviously showing how you could change them. As I say, just consolidating a little bit more of how you add content and style. Ultimately, you could use them for whatever you like. They could be quotes. Here, if you've obviously changed the nature of the box in about, currently it's all about meeting up, just as an example. If you have altered that, you would obviously need to be consistent in the actual contact section. You know, this here implies you're going to appreciate a good cup of coffee together. We're going to come on to these contact methods in the next video, actually. The WhatsApp one, you could just add a mobile number. Clearly that's just a made-up number. Email and call, you obviously this is what you display, so you would display the number there. As I said, I am going to pick up those in the next video and build it all into mobile optimization. And then here you could add a name, a business name or otherwise. The data protection disclaimer is something I do here in the UK. It's by no means advice. You absolutely are responsible for the privacy of any data that you collect, and you are wholly responsible of how you need to deal with that. You can obviously just remove that disclaimer, you can adapt it or whatever. That's absolutely fine. It's just there because that's what I do and that's what I'm sharing here in these videos. So once you've done your copy, and of course it would take longer than that, you would write it probably better off screen and again make passes, write a first pass, maybe it's a bit verbose, that's fine, make a second pass, refine it, and you would cut and paste it on and tweak as you go along. So how might we alter the layout? Well, you might want to add video. So you go to the video element in the left, you drag it to where you want it. You would need to pull in a heading and some text because there isn't a video box like there is an image box. You can obviously adapt the text there. You could add more text. The section could handle more text. And alter the title there as you would expect and center align it, assuming you're wanting the same effect as the image box. This is where you would add the link for the YouTube video or the link for the video in your media library in the WordPress backend. On YouTube, there is a button on the videos that says share, and if you click on it, it'll bring up what they call an embed link. That's what you put in that box. Once you've created your video title text column, you can duplicate it. Nice time saver. And obviously once you have made good the layout of the video elements with the titles, you can then adapt the copy. You can make these videos showcase your work, as I'm sort of demonstrating here. You could, they could be talk-through videos on nutrition, they could be to do with your YouTube channel. You could obviously make them about any number of different things. So when you're happy with that, you would obviously move on. But let's assume that you're not happy with that. Let's assume that you might want to go back, that you've changed your mind, which you will. In a moment, I will show you how to undo. You may also want to look at adding more than 3. You may want 6, which I'll show you in a second as well. So I've just undone that work with Control-Z, but you can use the history toolbar to the left, revolving anti-clockwise arrow at the bottom. If you click on that, you can see here how you can go back to any action that you did. It's not a feature I use that often, to be honest, because I find that on the left in that history, I don't know which one of those actions actually was the bit I want. But every now and again, it can be quite handy, especially if you want to go a long way back. To duplicate, you've probably worked it out. You right-click the section, that actually is an inner section, and you duplicate. And that's how you would increase the capacity for those videos. Next, you may want a gallery. Whether that's here or elsewhere, you pull the element in, you click on the image boxes on the left in the toolbar to select the images. You can add captions there. That's obviously got 4 columns. We want 3 because we've got 3 images. We can change the size of them. It's pretty self-explanatory, is this widget. I think most of them are. Like I said at the start, if for whatever reason you're using a widget that maybe is a little more obscure or it's just not as obvious, the how-to videos at Elementor are wonderful. They're very short and sweet, but they're very, very insightful. If you were to add more columns, you could probably make those images touch, make a sort of mosaic effect, which if what you're doing with the website is more visual, that could be quite powerful. You can also go to Style on Images and Border Radius to curve the edges. And once you've got an element, you can move it anywhere you like. You could duplicate it and move it elsewhere. Again, good time-saving tips, as that shows. Now let's look at this button. To set up a button, you pull it in from the left and you complete the content and so on and so forth. It's really quite straightforward. You would copy and paste the style actually if you wanted to duplicate that button. What's important to show you though is how menu anchors work. So the hashtag makes it a link within the web page, and contact is the ID of this menu anchor, as you can see there in the toolbar to the left, where it says contact. So there is one above the testimonials section, which I'll just scroll to in a sec, and there's one above the services section and also the about section. So if we change the link there from hashtag contact to hashtag services and click on this button, it will scroll to services. So you can adapt how the links work. You can obviously then change the text. And that would allow you to alter the flow of your page. Again, another example of duplication of the columns. Once you've made one column style and widget, using the right widgets, you can just duplicate. You can duplicate as many times as you like. At some point it could get congested, so just be conscious of that. Here in services, I said when we were looking at the copy, if we want more services, again, duplicate. That is an inner section. You'll see it in the widgets to the left. You can move the columns, drag and drop. You could maybe have, rather than 3 rows of 2 columns, you could have 2 rows of 3 columns. It may just suit the content better. There isn't a science to web design, but I do think that an approach is to consider clarity, making the text speak for itself, allow the content to shout, so to speak. I've said it many a time, for me less is more sometimes. And I think nowadays most of us would agree that when you're browsing a website that has that feel to it, it's a more pleasant experience. So you can add images or video. Again, on copy pass, I said we can bring in elements in here which may help explain or get across whatever content you're trying to put in. You could put any element in there. It could be video, like I said, it could be video, it could be gallery, it could be anyone. Here, let me show you how you can use colour. So you can gradient the colour. If you go to the section and background, and it's under background type, second tab in from the left, you can add 2 colours and then manipulate where the gradient starts and ends and the angle of it. This might be useful if you wanted to make the content in the breaker really stand out. You would obviously want to change the icons maybe to white or a much lighter colour. That's probably obvious, and you do that like so, as you know. I'm going to go back to this sort of cement stone type breaker. Again, for my needs in this site, I would prefer that. I think it's just a bit cleaner and a bit calmer on the eye. If you want to add a border to your services section, you would do so under style and border. Pretty obvious. I personally don't want to do that. Maybe you might if the background image was removed. We've covered the testimonials. If you're assuming you're going to keep them, you may want to alter the shape divider, which is what it's called, that diagonal line. You go to section, under style, shape divider, again, pretty obvious. You can alter the height, you can alter how it flips, but more importantly, you can alter the type of shape divider. There's about a dozen options. You can't see them in the drop down, but let me show you. That's mountains and pyramids. There's loads of different ones. Curve, you can invert the curve. That looks quite nice. I'll put it back to what I already did. It's nice. Again, it makes the content shout. Doesn't draw your eye too much away from what you're there to read. Down here on this section, it's the top shape divider. If you don't want a Google map, or you don't have an address for a Google map, or you do but you just don't want to publish it online, you can just delete the Google map. What I would do here, probably limited bit of content there. It makes the section a little light on content, so I would pad it out with white space. Maybe I would look to add some more contact methods just to fill that out slightly. No harm in that either. Maybe the social media methods. So what you've done with the WhatsApp one, you would just do the exact same thing, duplicate it, but then just change the icon to Facebook or whatever it may be. In the column, you can change widget spaces, so you can see there how it's pushed the widgets apart. If you do that, you can uncopy and paste the style to save time. You would alter the padding back maybe, because maybe it's just pushed a bit too much white space between those elements. Whilst we love white space, you can have too much of it. You don't want it to feel sparse. And there you go. I'm going to put this back. I quite like the Google Map. I think they're also quite handy for mobile if people are trying to find your office. Before we finish, I will just show you one last thing. You can actually move an entire section. I'll do that in the background, just as I reiterate the point that you now can use and manipulate the sections and columns within Elementor. You hopefully understand how to manipulate the layout of sections. If you understand that, you can then experiment a little bit with the widgets. Every build I do, I experiment. I use things and then I go backwards. That is part of the creative process, so you will do too. As you can see, that you would simply click on the section, keep your left finger down on the button of the mouse, and then you move it up and down the screen. So, armed with this knowledge, and assuming that you have been successful in adding your copy, and you've found a layout that works, and you've managed to style and add the content via the widgets in the toolbar, you would go to Update to save those changes. Next up, mobile optimization for the final stage of the website design.